cameras flash. The crowd froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession. Imagine this. You are scrolling through your feed and you see a tweet from a former Disney star.
Right. Just totally out of nowhere.
Exactly. He is directly calling out an A-list Oscar-winning actor, publicly asking him what his success rate is for sliding into the direct messages of 18 to 25-year-old female models.
Which is just a jaw-dropping thing to put on a public timeline.
But it really is. That alone would stop you in your tracks. But then, a blockbuster Marvel director chimes into the thread with an even darker joke, replying, he starts at 18 on the internet.
Oof. Yeah, it is a heavy exchange.
It is. But what happens next? The cameras flash, the timeline refreshes, and, well, nothing. The industry just moves on.
Yeah, it becomes this chilling digital artifact that just sort of gets buried.
Exactly. Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And those exact digital breadcrumbs you just mentioned, those are what led us to this massive conversation happening right now.
So let us lay out the mission for today's deep dive. We are looking at a huge stack of sources you all sent our way. We have got global news reports centered on a bombshell BBC documentary, deep legal analysis on non-disclosure agreements, pop culture essays, Reddit threads, and, those resurfaced celebrity tweets.
It is a lot to get through.
It is. Our goal today is to unpack the severe new allegations of sexual misconduct against Jared Leto. We are going to examine the mechanics of how past warnings, like the ones from Dylan Sprouse and James Gunn, were just treated as industry jokes.
Right, like just casual banter.
Yeah, exactly. And most importantly, we are going to deconstruct the invisible machinery that allegedly shielded him for decades. We are talking corporate NDAs, the whole method acting excuse, and literal fan cults.
But before we dive into the mechanics of this, we really need to state our disclaimer clearly up front.
Yes, absolutely.
We will be discussing grave accusations made by multiple women today. However, Jared Leto and his representatives have expressly and categorically denied all of these claims.
Right. Yeah.
They have labeled these allegations, quote, demonstrably false. And it is crucial to note that no criminal charges have been filed against him. Our objective here is not to play judge and jury, but to impartially report on the contents of the sources you provided.
Exactly. We are just following the blueprints laid out in the documents, and if you are loving these Hollywood twists and these deep investigations, make sure you are subscribed. We have got even crazier stories ahead, and you do not want to miss what is coming next.
Definitely hit subscribe. So looking at those digital breadcrumbs, why is this exploding right now?
Right. Why today?
It is because a recent BBC documentary has forced the internet to look backward and actually analyze what people call open secrets.
Oh, that term. Open secret.
Yeah, it is a loaded term. We have that 2018 Twitter exchange highlighted in the tab with Dylan Sprouse and James Gunn. But when you dig into the Reddit threads, specifically in the r/music community, you see the logistical side of how this allegedly operated on the ground.
Right, and the logistics are what take this from an internet rumor to a systemic issue. In that thread, there is a former 30 Seconds to Mars crew member named Brad who came forward.
And Brad's account is wild.
It is. His account doesn't just detail bad behavior, it details a coordinated logistical effort by the tour staff. Brad claimed that crew members were explicitly instructed to scout the audience for teenage girls and invite them backstage after the shows.
Which is just, horrifying to think about as a routine task.
It gets worse. Brad's account goes even further into the actual operations of a tour. He detailed how, when the band arrived in cities known for having modeling agencies, the crew was instructed to pick up the phone, call those agencies, and offer VIP passes and free tickets exclusively to their female models.
Wow. Just openly doing that.
Yeah. Brad literally said in his account, calling up a modeling agency and saying, we only want your female models, is a little bit uncomfortable.
Think about the mechanism of power at play there. The Reddit comments reflecting on this echo a really disturbing reality about the 2010s music scene. Users discussed how the band's tour bus allegedly had a revolving door for young female fans.
And multiple claims that IDs were not being checked, right?
Exactly. It was so well known that commenters noted other bands actively avoided touring with them because of this specific environment.
Think about your own workplace for a second. If someone in your office was openly requiring staff to recruit teenagers for after-hours parties, the HR department would have an absolute meltdown.
Oh, someone would be fired by lunch.
Literally by lunch. It feels like watching a building's smoke alarms go off for a decade on social media, but everyone in the building just treats the alarm like it is background music.
That's a great way to put it.
Nobody evacuates. Nobody calls the fire department. If crew members like Brad were openly uncomfortable, why does it take a heavily produced BBC documentary for the industry to actually pay attention?
Well, that gets right to the psychology of the bystander effect within highly profitable ecosystems.
Money, basically.
Yeah, money and power. In the touring music industry and in Hollywood, the hierarchy is absolute. The talent at the top is generating millions of dollars. The crew members at the bottom are entirely replaceable.
So they have no leverage?
None. If a lighting tech or a runner questions the lead singer's behavior, they do not just lose their job on that tour. They risk being blacklisted from the industry entirely. So the crew normalizes the behavior just to survive the environment.
Wow.
It takes a formalized investigation, backed by the legal and journalistic armor of a massive outlet like the BBC, to finally break through that localized silence.
So the whispers and the Reddit threads are basically the symptoms, but this BBC documentary is the actual diagnosis. And the details here, well, they change the conversation entirely. And later in the deep dive, we will talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming with how NDAs are actually being handled now.
Yeah, the transition from vague tweets to on-the-record allegations shifts this from a cultural gossip story to a serious journalistic inquiry. The BBC released Jared Leto, Hollywood's dark secret.
And how many women spoke to them?
10 women spoke to the reporters, and 4 of them accused the actor of criminal sexual conduct. The BBC used pseudonyms for these 4 women to protect their identities. They called them Isabel, Alex, Clara, and Etta.
I really struggled with the timeline when reading through these sources. According to the reporting, these encounters allegedly happened between 2002 and 2016.
That is a massive 14-year window.
Right. During that time, Leto was in his 30s and 40s. And the accusers, they state they were 16 or 17 years old.
The specifics of the accounts are genuinely harrowing. Isabel claims she was sexually assaulted in a dingy motel bathroom when she was 17.
God, that is awful.
And Alex alleges that she was brought to a hotel room under false pretenses. When she asked to just sleep on the sofa because she had no way to get home, she says she was threatened with sexual and anal assault if she stayed.
And then you have Clara's account. She states that she had sex with Leto at his California home when she was 17 and he was 34.
And legally, that is a huge line to cross.
Exactly. In the state of California, that age dynamic classifies as statutory rape. Beyond the legal definition, Clara alleged that he asked her to act like a little girl and to call him daddy. She told the BBC that she was naive and vulnerable at the time, noting, quote, "There is no well-adjusted man in his 30s who's going to look at a teenager and think she would be a great partner."
She is entirely right. And we have to view the BBC documentary within the broader historical context provided by the sources. This is not an isolated reporting event.
Right, there were others before this.
Yes. In June 2025, the outlet Airmail published a massive investigation titled The Cult of Leto, which featured allegations from 9 women.
Wow, 9 more.
And long before that, there was DJ Allie Tells, a 2012 Facebook post of hers, Resurfaced, where she stated Leto tried to force himself on her backstage when she was 17. She described his behavior as predatory and terrifying.
Once again, we have to reiterate that Leto has offered an absolute categorical denial of all these events. His representatives gave a statement in the CBS News source reading, quote, "I have never sexually assaulted anyone in my entire life. These claims are absolutely and categorically false."
It is a very firm denial.
It is. But let us look at the sheer logistics of this for a second. We are talking about allegations spanning roughly 2 decades. How does a major movie star operate with these kinds of severe stories circulating for almost 20 years without tripping over a legal or PR wire? It just defies logic.
Well, it only defies logic if you assume Hollywood operates on a moral compass rather than an economic one.
Oh, that is a harsh reality.
It is. How do powerful figures evade consequences? They use an industry infrastructure built on legal walls and calculated risk management.
Right, so let's dig into that machinery because the Weddings article by Henry Garcia breaks down what he calls Hollywood's economics of scandal. And it is honestly fascinating.
It is not just PR spin, right?
No, it is literal math. Studios invest hundreds of millions of dollars into these actors. The sources point out Leto is attached to massive, expensive upcoming franchises like Disney's Tron Heirs and Amazon's Masters of the Universe.
Exactly. The lead actor isn't just a person to them. They are the primary brand asset for a corporate investment. Studios will literally run actuarial models on a scandal.
Actuarial models, like an insurance company.
Exactly like that. If a blockbuster film makes 70% of its gross revenue overseas, and international markets do not actively follow U.S.-based Twitter drama, the studio realizes it is cheaper to absorb the domestic backlash than it is to recast and reshoot a $200 million movie.
So when the asset is threatened, the PR teams aren't trying to uncover the truth. They are just running damage mitigation. They aim for distraction and audience fatigue, knowing that the news cycle will eventually pivot to something else.
Yep, they just wait it out.
But it is not just press releases. They use actual binding legal paperwork. The legal analysis from KU Scholar Works by Emily Ott dissects the use of non-disclosure agreements, or NDAs.
NDAs are the foundational bricks of this protective wall. They are enforceable contracts that allow individuals or corporations to legally purchase the silence of an accuser. And the sources show exactly how this mechanism was allegedly deployed in Leto's case.
Right, with Etta.
Yes. Etta, one of the women from the BBC documentary, claimed that Leto began sending her explicit sexual emails when she was just 16. 2 years later, when she was 18, she says his lawyers contacted her with a sweeping NDA to legally prevent her from ever discussing their relationship.
She refused to sign it, thankfully. And the BBC actually viewed the draft of that NDA. This is the exact same blueprint that protected Harvey Weinstein for decades.
The exact same playbook.
You hire private security and weaponize NDAs to buy silence, effectively isolating every accuser so they think they're the only one out there.
The systemic result of this is what Emily Ott calls toxic secrecy. The legal system is essentially acting as a massive corporate bouncer. But instead of keeping danger out of the establishment, it's keeping the truth locked inside.
Wait, I am stuck on something Emily Ott mentioned in that analysis, though. If we ban NDAs entirely, aren't we taking away a victim's right to just settle quietly and move on with their life?
That is the big debate.
It feels like a massive double-edged sword. Don't some survivors want the certainty of a settlement without being dragged through a public media circus and branded as litigious?
You have hit on the core ethical tension of the post-Me Too legal reckoning. It is absolutely true that an NDA can provide immediate financial closure and privacy for an individual survivor.
Right.
The problem, and what Ott argues in the paper, is the macro effect. By prioritizing the individual's immediate need for a quiet settlement, the public remains completely in the dark.
So the cycle just repeats.
Exactly. The cost of that privacy is ultimately paid by unwarned future targets. Toxic secrecy allows a serial predator to reset the board and continue operating with a perfectly clean public image.
That makes total sense. The corporation protects the asset, the survivor gets privacy, but the next 17-year-old walking backstage have absolutely no idea what they're walking into.
Spot on.
So we have the PR actuarial models and we have the legal bouncers with their NDAs. But what blew my mind in these sources is that Leto allegedly utilized two other massive shields that you can only really get away with in pop culture.
Oh, this is the wildest part.
Yes. His intensely devoted fan base and his reputation as an eccentric method actor. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button if you have not already, because we are about to get into the cult side of things, and you do not want to miss this.
Let's examine how a fandom functions as a shield. The Indie News piece breaks down the cult of Jared Leto. And cult isn't just a hyperbolic term used by critics. It is a highly organized ecosystem built around his band.
They literally call themselves the Echelon.
Yeah. In 2019, they held a 3-day music festival and retreat on Mars Island in Croatia.
The visuals described in the sources are wild. Hundreds of fans, along with Leto, wearing flowing white robes on an isolated island.
It looks exactly like you'd picture a cult.
The band even tweeted photos of this with the caption, "Yes, this is a cult, totally leaning into the branding."
But underneath the playful branding is a very serious psychological dynamic. When a musician establishes a direct, parasocial, almost religious tether with a devoted following, it completely alters the nature of accountability.
How so?
Well, the Indie News article explains that in these insular environments, the fans begin to police each other. Any outside criticism or any victim coming forward is instantly reframed by the community as a persecution of their idol.
So if a victim decides to bypass the NDA and just post their story online, they aren't just facing Leto's lawyers, they're facing an army of coordinated superfans ready to destroy their digital life.
Exactly. That is an incredibly intimidating barrier. The fandom acts as an unpaid, highly aggressive PR defense force.
Unpaid PR, that is wild.
Right. And then you have the ultimate Hollywood shield, the excuse of method acting. Leto has cultivated this reputation as a tortured, immersive artist.
Oh, I have heard so many stories about
We
this.
all have. But the Mary Sue article points out how this specific narrative has been weaponized to justify a bizarre and frankly hostile behavior on set for years.
The examples here are notorious. During the filming of Suicide Squad in 2016, Leto reportedly terrorized his co-stars under the guise of staying in character as the Joker.
Yeah, the gifts.
He sent a live rat to Margot Robbie. He sent a dead hog to Viola Davis. Again, think about your own workplace. If a coworker brought a dead pig into your office and said, "Oh, it's just for a project," they would be arrested.
Immediately.
But because it is a movie set, we call it art.
And the behavior isn't limited to shock value. It actively disrupts production. On the set of Morbius, Leto played a character with a rare blood disease who uses crutches.
Okay, sure.
He allegedly refused to break character between takes, using the crutches to slowly limp to the bathroom.
You are kidding.
No, it delayed production so severely that the crew had to negotiate a deal to push him in a wheelchair just to keep the multi-million-dollar shoot on schedule.
It reminds me of the toxic tech bro founder excuse. As a society, we seem totally willing to tolerate a CEO who screams at employees and creates a miserable culture as long as they are labeled an eccentric genius who creates a high-yield product. We do the exact same thing with actors.
That is a brilliant comparison. The eccentric genius narrative provides a convenient, culturally sanctioned cover for behavior that breaks basic professional boundaries.
It just gives them a free pass.
But what is interesting is that the industry itself is starting to reject this. The sources highlight quotes from other actors who are calling this out. Mads Mikkelsen bluntly called this extreme form of method acting bullshit, pointing out the absurdity by asking, "Am I impressed that you didn't drop character? You should have dropped it from the beginning."
I love that quote. Will Poulter weighed in on this too. He said that if an actor's process creates an inhospitable environment for everyone else, they have completely lost sight of what is important.
He is totally right.
He explicitly stated that method acting shouldn't be used as an excuse for inappropriate behavior. It forces us to ask ourselves, are we, as the audience, complicit in this? Every time we eat up these crazy stories of an actor's dedication to their craft, are we just validating a system that lets powerful people ignore basic human boundaries?
We absolutely play a role in sustaining that blind spot. We romanticize the suffering artist to the point where toxicity is viewed as a necessary ingredient for genius rather than a massive liability.
So synthesizing all of this, this deep dive really isn't just about one actor or one rock band. It is a masterclass in how institutional power protects itself.
It is systemic.
When you connect the logistics of touring crews pulling teenagers backstage to the actuarial math of studio investments, to the legally binding NDAs locking away the truth, all the way to the myth of the eccentric artist, you finally see the invisible machinery that shapes pop culture.
You realize that an open secret isn't a failure of communication. An open secret is a highly managed ecosystem working exactly as it was designed to.
The next time you hear a wild, quirky story about a celebrity's absolute dedication to their craft, or you see a devoted fan cult rallying behind a superstar, you might want to look a little closer at what those narratives are designed to hide. The public is finally starting to see through the noise.
And that leaves us with one final structural shift to consider. The legal landscape that has enabled this machinery is actually fracturing right now.
Really? How so?
The KU ScholarWorks research highlights that several states, including California and New York, are actively passing laws to ban or severely limit the use of NDAs in cases involving sexual misconduct.
Wow. Just think about the implications of that for you as a listener watching these movies and following these careers. If the legal muzzle of the NDA is finally removed and that corporate bouncer is permanently stripped of their power, how many other eccentric geniuses in Hollywood and the music industry are currently sweating, realizing that their most expensive tool for buying silence has just been taken away?
It's going to be a fascinating few years in the industry.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.